this hits home with these agents. These just aren't law enforcement agents. These are fathers. These are mothers of kids in that age group. It concerns them. They know what we as a society are up against, and it is their job to curtail this as much as they possibly can. So I was very impressed with what DEA is doing right now.
I'm Flindt Andersen, founder of PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need. I've been in recovery since 2001, and there isn't much I don't know about recovery. And my mission is to constantly tell the truth about addiction, to make the realities of addiction, recovery, and drug culture known, and to drive awareness and advocate change that ultimately saves lives.
And I'm Jason LaChance, a certified recovery coach with a passion for speaking with others and sharing their knowledge to help others seek recovery and maintain long-term sobriety. And this is the Don't Hide the Scars podcast, presented by PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need. Welcome to the Don't Hide the Scars podcast. I'm Jason LaChance, here with the founder of Parents and Addicts in Need, Flindt Andersen. Good day.
Hello, Jason. Good day, sir.
Well, you are fresh returning from the 2024 Family Summit on the Fentanyl Epidemic put on by the DEA Sacramento division. So we're going to get into some of the ins and outs of that here in this conversation. But hey, please hit that subscribe button, whatever platform you're on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, thumb up, and leave us a comment in the section below if you got something positive out of this or topics you would like Flindt and I to explore on Don't Hide the Scars. So let's talk it. I mean, do you feel the fentanyl epidemic is actually getting some more notoriety, or are we still in the same boat?
Look, I think we're in the same boat to a certain extent, because there's not a lot that how do I put this? That law enforcement will put out what they're doing in these summits, in these conferences, but it's not like the general public is getting the information on the nightly news.
Right.
So I'm sure most of the general public think, you know what, they're really not doing much, but they are, and I want people to realize that. I mean, we've had comments before about people, we've talked about the DEA and, they make some of these rude, asinine comments. And the fact of the matter is people need to understand they're not going to give up their deep, dark secrets here on what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. But I can assure you that DEA is doing everything in their power within, I'm sure they're limited to certain extents because of politics. Mm-hmm. But I heard yesterday from men and women, boots on the ground people, right? And even the top echelon that were there, man, they gave us some good insight, on what is going on and how they are, planning, how to take on the cartels. Sure. And again, they're not giving us their deep, dark secrets either, but they lean towards giving us some information that really made sense. They are extremely aware of the problem. They know exactly where these drug dealers are out of. They know they're in all 50 states. They do have certain plans that are in place. And again, these guys they're committed to it. And I know I'm not giving a whole lot of detail right now, but again, I've been in this a long time and I've heard all the smoke up the skirt comments.
Sure.
This isn't smoke up the skirt. These guys take it serious. And in yesterday's summit, of course, we had about, I want to say 10 to 12 people there that lost a child to this or lost a loved one to this. And this hits home with these agents. These just aren't law enforcement agents. These are fathers. These are mothers of kids in that age group. It concerns them. They know what we as a society are up against, and it is their job to curtail this as much as they possibly can. So I was very impressed with what DEA is doing right now.
Yeah. And I think that's so forgotten. I'm glad you mentioned that, these agents, there's a pastor at my church who used to be a DEA agent. I had a brief little exchange with him. And my biggest learning from that is no one gets in that field simply because of the sunshine and rainbows of it. It's because they feel an incredible concern and love really in their heart to increase public safety in their sector. I mean, it's drug enforcement agent. That's what they're doing. They see what it is. They see the destructiveness that it does to families, communities, and our country as a whole.
They see it in their own schools that their kids are going to.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll tell you what, these guys are badasses. And I'll tell you another thing, that the women are badasses too. Yes. Right. I mean, I wouldn't mess with any of them, to be honest with you. But they're like I said, they were moved by these parents that lost a loved one. How can you not be? Mm-hmm. But they explained to us, and again, this isn't giving away deep, dark secrets. This is something the general public doesn't know, that the Hondurans, isn't the Mexican cartels. Mm. The Hondurans, there are about 700 drug dealers that Honduras has sent into the Bay Area.
Yep.
And these Hondurans, they're brutal. They don't mess around. And so these agents, they know the different gangs. They know the different cartels that are there. They know where they come from. And there are plans on getting these people out of there. It's just going to take some time, because I remember a few years ago, one of the agents was saying that there was less than 5,000 agents working the fentanyl epidemic. And this is 3-4 years ago. I'm not sure what the number is now, but I can guarantee you that number's increased, just because they've had to.
Yeah.
But it's, and they also made another great comment. For whatever reasons, they're always 1 to 2 steps behind these cartels. And especially when it comes to social media. Mm. And when it comes to some of the technology, that is going on out there. It was, and there's reasons for that, because a lot of it is budget. Sure. A lot of it is do they have the money to do that? And of course, our government cuts out half of this crap. So the people that really do care can't do anything. But it's not discouraging them.
Yeah.
It's just not.
When they brought up technology, were they making references to things like dark web and yes, some of those hidden ways of doing it, social media related
Snapchat
stuff? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Because they're not getting very good cooperation out of the people at Snap or anything else, so it's tough. It's tough on them a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think people need to understand, that some of the regulatory stuff, privacy, even though when we sign up for social media, the ignorance of it, this stuff is private, or it goes away and it really doesn't. And so it's trying to get into the access of, say, a Snapchat post that somebody put up like, hey, I got bars, making reference to generally Xanax or something like that, and being able to access that. It is a real challenge, and you got to get, you got to get a warrant in no different way and get a sign off then from a judge on it and make sure everything complies. It's a heck of an expensive process to do it.
Right. I mean, the cartels don't have to follow the laws, but we do.
Yeah.
Right. So they're always going to be a couple steps ahead, when it comes to that. So that's why it's critical on who we vote for again. I'm not telling somebody who to vote for, right? But people are smart enough to know. We start having these budgets cut. What is that doing to us? I mean, it's tying their hands.
Yeah.
But what I really like, what they talked about yesterday, and they've been doing this for a while now. And again, their priority, their primary law enforcement. Let's get these guys off the streets. Let's bust as many of these labs as we possibly can. Because what they did say is that even though we've got millions of pills and everything else coming over the border, there are more labs right here on U.S. soil than they've ever seen before. That pill presses are being shipped into your neighbor's house that you don't even know about. And so I think we even talked about this a week or two ago.
Yeah, we've speculated on that for quite some time, that was going to be the next phase. And as disheartening it is to be right, but like, hey,
we're right.
We were right.
We were right.
New Perceptions North, the premier drug and alcohol treatment and recovery center in Central California. A full continuum of medically supervised top quality care with programs for detox and patient residential treatment with dual diagnosis, intensive outpatient treatment, sober living support groups, and more. New Perceptions North provides adult men and women with the highest caliber of professional health care, treating each client with compassion and respect in a safe, comfortable environment to begin the process of recovery to proudly create and sustain a life without addiction. Call 559-978-1507 or visit newperceptionsnorth.com. And
so they're seeing a huge increase in that. And again, as we talked about, I mean, you knew that was coming. I mean, it's all with drug dealers. They're not, even one of the agents told me yesterday, they're not stupid people. They know how to run their business, and they're going to run it like a Fortune 500 company. They're going to want to be efficient, So again, we're just not dealing, even though they're thugs, we're not dealing with a bunch of thugs.
Yeah.
Especially the upper echelon. But here's where I like where DEA has gone and is going with this is, of course, the educational piece. Getting into schools, doing all that stuff that we do and that we've tried to do, and now do I think some of that is I think some of it just needs to be a little more realistic. I mean, again, it can't, in my opinion, it just can't be the red ribbon formula to this, because we all know that kids think that's all bullshit. We know it is. But what I like is they're hitting different nationalities with this. They're making a big move in the education piece. And what I really liked is they brought me in yesterday as the expert on addiction and treatment. And so we talked about treatment. And and my point with that is, I am a firm believer that law enforcement needs to understand more about addiction, about the addict, about how we are affected by it, how it affects our brains, on and on and on. Instead of, and again, I'm not saying they're doing this, but like the old days was like, you're just a drug addict, we're just going to haul your ass in.
Right.
Okay. And particularly, they need to understand the fentanyl addict, the fentanyl user, because of the potency of the drug and all that goes with it.
Yeah.
But I did tell them, as we talked about treatment, and I made it clear that we don't have enough beds in this country. I explained that there are two sides to treatment, those with PPO insurance and cash to afford a private treatment center, and those with Medi-Cal or Medicaid that can't afford a private treatment center. And on the latter, there's not enough beds, and they know this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they know this. Now, it's not DEA's responsibility to try to change the treatment industry, but we partner, you know, with DEA, and I like the fact that we do that, because if we can get somebody from there to try to join us to change that, you know, they have that political clout to try to get something changed. You know, and one mom brought up the fact that, you know, she said, you know, there just needs to be more places that are dual diagnosis. This is from a mother that lost her son. And I assured her that in private treatment, almost every private treatment center is dual diagnosis now, and has been for a while.
Can you clarify what that is for maybe people that don't understand what dual diagnosis is?
Sure. It's dealing with both substance use and mental health issues, such as anxiety and depression, bipolar, et cetera, et cetera. Most of us have, you know, we at our treatment facility, yes, we have a psychiatrist on staff, you know, because that it goes so hand in hand. And even if it's not a true mental health issue, the substance use mimics the mental health issues. So it's always trying to decipher which one is which, you know, because they are two, even though they're similar, they're two separate issues.
Yeah. Well, if I can illustrate for me, for anyone, for those listening, you know, primarily alcoholism. And so when I wasn't and coming down, depression for sure. I've struggled with depression since puberty pretty much. And then I would say in using the substance, like actively, very much a manic. You'd see someone that either, you know, I'd be really high and joyous, or at certain times, unfortunately, angry, and, you know, all these things. And then going through it, the reality is I suffer more from an anxiety disorder than the others. Sure. So it's where it is. It's very, very, very complex. And I know we talk a lot about, you know, continuum of care and everything else. And I know UFI is like, how can we make this all more comprehensive and cooperative? And that's the thing. I mean, let's say it is a situation, DEA with interdiction, and they get this individual, and the individual is an addict, and maybe they don't have any serious crimes on the books, that, you know, locking them up wouldn't be the thing. But I'll tell you, it's a lot cheaper if we took the individual, put them through a comprehensive treatment plan, even 90 days, 6 months, whatever it is, than trying to house them in prison for 2 years.
Yes.
This is you know, when you and I talk, and I didn't really think about it till you were saying all this, like, you know, the plan you and I have discussed and that you've put out there to me that I've kind of ruminated on, it's not only a life-saving, but it's a fund. It saves money too.
It does.
And it's just really trying to get all of these agencies to work together.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes deeper than what we think, you know, and that's where I think insurance companies really, I mean, as much as they want to save money by cutting time down, right, in residential treatment and getting them into outpatient as quickly as possible, to me, that just doesn't make any sense. You know, insurance companies will pay for somebody in outpatient over and over and over and over again, even though they keep relapsing. Okay. They will pay, again, depending on the insurance company, they'll pay for 3 or 4 or 5 different relapses, you know, instead of trying to take care of it the first time. Yeah. You know, and so how are you saving money there? Yeah. You know, it doesn't financially, that doesn't make any sense.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, at 559-579-1551, or visit us online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Pain Nonprofit. And please subscribe to the Don't Hide the Scars podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. And if you would like to donate to PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, please click the link in the description to make your tax-deductible donation today and help us save more lives gripped by addiction. We're here in California, and our governor, and he's wanting to have less prisons and all that. And like, hey, okay, I get the idea behind that. But if you really want to save the money and you're looking at certain types of crime around it, you could put a lot more and work with private treatment centers to have these people there more long-term. And you would save off of your state budget quite a bit.
Absolutely. You know, it's like I said, it's a nightmare. And what we're dealing with insurance companies and the state on all of these things, all of these issues. But again, where DEA is coming from is they want to incorporate all of these things together. You know, law enforcement, you know, education, treatment, awareness, you know, all of it. And when it is, in my opinion, when it is all put together in the right formula, then it works. But again, in my opinion, you can't have one outshining the other. You know, you just can't talk about the awareness piece.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to give solutions to go with the awareness piece. You know, I remember, again, 3 years ago when both local law enforcement and DEA, when they would go out to either an overdose or a possible overdose, you know, they would hand our cards out to parents. And you know what's sad, Jason? I think out of that 2 or 3 year period that they did that, we may have gotten 5 phone calls.
Wow.
And there's a couple of reasons behind that. I think number one, the parent is embarrassed.
Sure.
Number two, they finally got, if the loved one made it, they got him to the hospital, and they thought, okay, now everything's going to be fine. And it's not.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the start of it. You know, I talked a little bit yesterday about Narcan, and, you know, with some people in some private conversations with the agents and with some of the loved ones, that, you know, Narcan is not a treatment tool. You know, Narcan's a life-saving tool. That's it. It doesn't help with your addiction. It doesn't help you in sobriety. You know, it keeps you alive. It gives you a chance at life.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. You know, because overdoses are down, as we know that. But let me be real clear on that statement. Overdoses are down in the United States. They are up in California.
Mm-hmm.
They're up in California. So you have to ask yourself, if overdoses are on the decrease in the country, why is there still such a demand for the drug?
Mm-hmm.
That tells me, and we know this, that addiction rates are up.
Yeah.
So it's like watering half a plant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, you want to get the flower or the plant for the leaves to start to, you know, become whole again, and then to rise out of the pot, right? Instead of just kind of half-assed hanging down. But that's what we're doing. We're half-assed it again.
Well, and I think people often associate the word overdose with death, and that's not the case.
That's not the case. But like you and I have talked about on many occasions, you know, we're not talking about the people that have overdosed, gone into the hospital, and survived.
Mm-hmm.
And where are those people today?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the knowledge that I have, because of the experience that I personally had in this, I would venture to say that if there were 100 people that went into the hospital for an overdose, and survived, 90% of them are still in their addiction.
Oh, yeah. If not higher.
If not higher.
Yeah. I think I've told the story about the young man that I ended up giving his mom Narcan that goes to a recovery meeting with me, overdosed twice in one day. How do you think he survived? He was Narcan once by the sheriffs, once the other time by an ambulance. And unfortunately, haven't seen him back at the meetings. So either he is gone or he is still out there.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's how it works.
Right.
And when sober, that good-looking young man, and he's got like the Antonio Banderas ponytail going on, and you know, real charming, and now who knows?
There was this one female agent from San Francisco who I was talking with yesterday, and as we were talking about this, I turned to her and I go, oh, I said, have you heard of what the kids call the person that's got the Narcan the Narcan with them? She goes, which one are you talking about? I said, they call him Lazarus. And she goes, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So for people that don't understand that, of course, Lazarus is the one that came back from the dead in the Bible, right? Well, that's the person supposedly that's not using that night, that is around with the rest of the people that are using and will bring you back from the dead. They're responsible for the Narcan that night. Because we have to make this clear that if you're going to go out and use, and if you're an addict, and you can't wear Narcan around your neck and self-administer. So sorry, it don't work that way.
Yeah. If you need a good example, I don't know, watch it. Breaking Bad, for instance. I always think of the scene of the character Jesse when he's using heroin, learns to shoot up. Yeah. You know, or you see the videos on the streets of the person that is hunched over. That is fentanyl. That's what happens very, very rapidly. You are not of a conscious state to do anything. This isn't the drunk guy that you go, well, here's some coffee and Gatorade, let's sober you up. It doesn't work that way.
Right. By the way, on that, it just makes you a wide awake drunk.
Right. As I recall.
Exactly.
And it's painful to even think about. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Coffee never got me sober. It just made me more awake.
Yeah. Oh, just the misery. Boy. Oh, I can think of the misery. And I think those are just the continual, I don't want to say, lack of education, I think is safe to say, around not only addiction, but substance abuse, and in particular, the word I can't say, this substance, fentanyl, and how it works. And I think it's people needing to understand that. Like, I had a minor procedure, what was it, 2 years ago, and I'm freaking out. And Flindt, I'm going to call you afterwards because they're giving me fentanyl to slightly put me under. And I wasn't a drug. I didn't like opioids. As a matter of fact, I was one of those people that made me sick the first time, and that was enough. It was like, oh, I can drink 30 beers and not puke like this. So, what a wonderful rationale, right? But it is a very trippy substance, and I could see that appeal in how for certain individuals it would trigger so quickly into going from use, abuse, addiction, death.
Yeah. Well, and you said something that was really important just now, because I still believe that when organizations are going into the schools or churches or wherever, that's the piece that they're not adding, or they're not adding it in a way that somebody's going to go, oh, that didn't hear that one before. You know, I mean, I would be curious to know how many people think that you can self-administer Narcan. You know, I mean, I've never heard anybody, I'll say it, except for me, talk about the people that went into the hospital, overdosed, and survived, and what has happened to them. And I've mentioned, here are scenarios to help those people. I've never heard anybody else talking about it, but you know why they don't talk about it? Because they don't know it. and they haven't experienced it. Like I made one quick mention to this yesterday. I said, this whole thing, setting aside the law enforcement side, it's like an octopus, the octopus's tentacles. There are so many tentacles to this crisis and to addiction that it's almost damn near impossible for somebody to understand. And I think, again, when we go into these places, or DEA or DAs or other law enforcement agencies or other speakers, they don't have the time to get that. Even if they wanted to, they don't have the time to get it out. We're limited. That's why I've always said, when we're dealing with the school district, you just can't come in once a year. You have to make this several times a semester so you can get the entire message across to people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe I'm pissing in the wind on that one. Maybe it's coming right back and hitting me in the face. Sometimes it seems like it.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't everybody want to understand this? I'm literally stymied by that. And in the meantime, the death toll is rising.
Yeah.
See, because I again, rightfully so, we're focusing on the quote, the poisonings, and I know the language had to be changed to that in order to get where we need to get via law enforcement.
Yep.
All right, and prosecuting these drug dealers. The language is key. It's all about the language. But again, people need to understand the whole cycle here of this.
Yeah. I don't recall you ever putting it quite so well, and I don't think I've ever come to that conclusion. So thank you for that. That when the stating poisoning is a very strong driver when it comes to litigation.
Yes.
Because if we state poisoning, we can show intent through behind the distribution of it, knowing that this is a killing chemical. And if it is classified, this was unintentional, this use of it, good, we can nail these people through that.
Right.
The sad reality, you've seen it longer than I have, and I continue to see it. And I was even thinking about a buddy of mine that, we lost touch on purpose because he was going down that road, and I don't know what chemical he was buying in a drug dealer that went bad, and he was stabbed to death and died. But he was in full-blown addiction. It very well could have been that he was down that road of fentanyl use. I'm willing to bet. People go, the attitude was, well, it's just another junkie dead in a drug deal gone bad. And so if we utilize a term such as poisoning, it gives necessary humanity to it. Like Paula we spoke to not that long ago, her son had a fentanyl-laced joint that he was not told. He was told it was from a dispensary, and clearly it was not. But it makes it a little more difficult for what you do, what I do, what Parents and Addicts in Need does and stands for, is that, yes, that is true. Poisoning for sure, but there is fentanyl addicts.
Yes, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah,
and just kind of taking back what you said, that language. It's not like the parents of these individuals are going to be comforted anymore, but it's going to give them justice.
Deserve justice.
They deserve it. No question. Because no matter how you look at it, no matter if the person is in the dependency stage, or excuse me, the experimental stage, or the dependency stage, or the addiction stage, the person that sold them that pill still knowingly sold them a pill that they didn't know how much fentanyl was in it. The drug dealer didn't know how much fentanyl was in it. So yes, to me, that's beyond manslaughter. That's murder. But who am I? But what happens? I've never thought about this before. What happens down the road? 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, where all of a sudden that parent, and God forbid, but that parent all of a sudden is finding out more and more information, and it wound up that their child was in one of those stages. Because these parents, and again, rightfully so, they want answers. So it goes back to the tentacle part of this, that there's so much more to it. And again, I just wish we would get those messages out to people. Because even if we're talking about experimentation, because most of these kids, there was one young lady that was 39 whose mother was there. There was a couple other that their kids were like 27, a couple that were 18, a couple that were 21. Every parent there said that they never would have taken something that had fentanyl in it. Now, maybe that's true. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But you still have to ask yourself the question, why were they buying an opioid anyway? Because they were either buying a Percocet or thought it was a Percocet, or they bought the M30 pill or cocaine that was laced with fentanyl. You have to ask yourself the question, why were they buying that to begin with?
Yeah. Or we've seen the counterfeit Xanax,
Or right. That's the other thing.
Yeah. So there's always an underlying cause. And I think it takes us good and full circle back to, as you started, the anxiety or the depression or bipolar or manic, whatever it is, all these things, these underlying things. I mean, you can go back through so many episodes we've had with people that are in recovery. I mean, I think Tim Lodgen right away, our buddy, he was, United States Marine, high achiever. I mean, big, strong dude. And he undiagnosed bipolar disorder.
Right. And even as I have traveled through this journey, I was born in the 50s, so which seems like a million years ago. And of course in those days and through the 70s and even into the 80s, it was, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, kind of a thing. But in today's world, today's society, my God, I get anxiety, from time to time, just picking up the phone and seeing what's on there. It's like I want to throw the thing in my pool every morning, so I don't have to listen to this bullshit. But there is so much going on. Again, I'm not making excuses either. I'm not doing that. But there's so much just going on that it's. I'll be honest with you. It's no wonder we don't have more people that are masking their issues with substances.
Yeah.
Well, but let me tell you something. When I'm out there just in the general public, they are.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we see at the mommy wine clubs, and I had a buddy that asked me to join one of the local lodges. I'll just put it that way. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, what do you do? Well, we get together, BS, talk business, drink beer and booze. And I'm like, so nothing that I would be interested in whatsoever. like right. What kind of business people? Oh, so-and-so. Well, do you see these as people that would want to contribute to the recovery community, substance abuse, and help families and addicts in need? Not that I know of. Why would I be there? Right. I've had enough dumb conversations. I think that there is so much more potential for more of those community partnerships. And I mean, you named our organization properly, Paying Parents and Addicts in Need, and trying to do of service to them to just let them know there's a different way. and there is a greater sense of community that can happen here. And, all it takes is participation, and nobody's shoving you one way or the other, but, give it a shot. Give it a shot.
Yep. Give it a shot. But, just kind of coming to a close here. It's like, I want to give another shout out to DEA. And of course, I'm not going to mention people's names on here just for I don't know, call it security reasons, whatever the case may be, but these men and women who I know, they're all in. Okay. And if the general public doesn't think that they are, well, then the general public is sadly mistaken.
Yeah. Because
every time these people pull over a truck, a car, it doesn't matter. All right. They're putting their life on the line, because drug dealers, they don't care if they go to jail. They don't care if they go to prison. These men and women are special, and they're tough, and we couldn't survive without them. I'm just going to say it that way. We just couldn't.
Yes, sir. Anything else you want to add, Mr. Andersen?
I don't think so. I think that kind of covers it for the day.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you again for listening to the podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify. You get us, of course, on YouTube, where you can subscribe to the channel, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment in this video. Let us know what you got out of it, or if there's other topics and maybe potential guests you'd like Flindt and I to speak with. And, of course, don't forget the parent support meeting every Wednesday night that Flindt conducts in person at the Payne headquarters, as well as via Zoom. That link is in the podcast description, and everyone is welcome. So please don't hesitate to reach out and contact us here at Payne. If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call Payne Parents and Addicts in Need at 559-579-1551, or visit us online at paynonprofit.org. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Payne Nonprofit. And please subscribe to the Don't Hide the Scars podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. And if you would like to donate to Payne Parents and Addicts in Need, please click the link in the description to make your tax-deductible donation today and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.